Hey y'all, Dino Dan coming at you live. Not quite live, but you get it, from YouTube with 5 things that I wish I knew before buying a drone. Possibly one of my best purchases I've ever made. Before we go forward, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll bring you more content like this in the future. With that being said, let's go. Number one thing I wish I knew is just how many places you cannot fly this drone, unfortunately, and some of them are the places that you would want to fly them the most, such as pretty much every national park in the United States without express authorization, a lot of state parks, especially like here in Florida and some in California, I believe, over prisons. That should be pretty common knowledge. Over sporting stadiums while big events are going on, and you have to keep it under 400 feet through the FAA, although that's just here in the United States, and those rules might vary from country to country depending on where you're in. I would suggest you look up your rules and laws regarding that depending on what country you live in. Thing number 2 that I would have loved to know before buying a drone is, you see these sensors on the bottom? About right there, right down yonder. Yeah, so the light reflecting off of water over there will mess with these sensors, and it might cause it to drift into the water, so definitely be aware of that. Unless you have insurance or you're a millionaire. If that's the case, do whatever you want all the time. Just kidding, unless it's legal. So definitely be aware of that. Although those nice low over the water shots look beautiful, I would keep it about 20 feet or higher just to risk, or not risk, rather, crashing your drone into the water. So it would be unfortunate. So that's number 2. Rule number 3, law number 3, thing I wish I knew number 3 is to consider wind resistance. And before you take this out, actually look at the weather forecast to see winds, because strong winds will push this thing where you don't want it to, such as near people. I'm kidding, don't fly near people. That's also something that should be said. But into stuff such as small tree branches, which has happened to me a few times, it has you sweating for real. So definitely keep it under about like 20 miles an hour or so, I would say personally. And for DJI specifically, when you take this thing off, it will actually give you a strong wind resistance warning. So that's a pretty good indicator to not fly it under those strong winds. Now the wind, it isn't such a bad hindrance to your drone because of this 3-axis gimbal. So it goes up, down, side to side, and it tilts like that. So if the wind pushes the drone, your camera will correct itself, whether it be up, down, left, right, side to side, yada yada yada. But you just don't want your drone drifting into anything you don't want it to. So that's why this is number 3 things that I wish I knew to consider before buying a drone. Thing number 4, here we go. Smart modes will make you look like a pro right off the bat. With this being said, you do still have to keep an eye on your drone. Don't just let it do whatever it wants and trust the obstacle avoidance entirely. You can end up hurting someone or crash into something, which is what we don't want here. But for DJI, this one specifically, the Mavic Air 2, which is amazing. I love it very much. Don't regret it one bit. It offers stuff such as circle mode, where it tracks you, you just put yourself in the middle and it flies around you in a perfect circle. There's also Helix, which is pretty much the same thing as circle, but it kind of pulls itself out and up just like a circle, so it adds a little bit more dynamic video to that. Also Rocket, it just goes straight out and up. Definitely keep an eye on that, especially if you're on trees like I am here. Follow is another one where you just drag your finger across the box and it'll follow you around wherever you walk. It does a good job of avoiding obstacles. Just be aware of the side to side and know where it's at all times, definitely. And lastly, I'd like to bring up is panorama modes, so you don't have to manually stitch images together. It just does that on its own and it comes out beautiful. Now lastly, I bring you to thing number 5, which is kind of a twofer. Number 1, if your drone's over 250 grams, you have to get it registered through the FAA here in the United States at least. If it's under 249 grams, you don't have to, but it's only about a $5 fee. And next up, the twofer part. So 0.5 or 6, I'm not sure, 0.5, 0.75, is you cannot use this commercially unless you have a Part 107 license through the FAA. Now there's a lot of good resources out there, such as Pilot Institute. I know is one definitely a lot of people use, but it's a test you have to study for and pay for and get registered. If you don't have that license and you use it for commercial purposes, you can be hit with pretty heavy fines from the FAA, so just be aware of that. If you've made it to the end, thank you very, very much for being here with me. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe if you want to, hit dislike if you want to. Hit dislike if you don't like this video at all. Do whatever you want, you know, but I hope I at least brought to you some details to pay attention to, or something that's helped you in your drone buying journey. Thank you all once again. I'll see you next time. Peace.